On the night of April 25, 2009, 17-year-old Brittanee Drexel of Chile, New York, left a hotel in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where she had been staying with friends over spring break. Drexel walked to another hotel a short distance away, and from there texted her boyfriend to say that she was heading back to her motel. It was the last time she was known to be alive. Brittanee Drexel was born in Rochester, New York, on October 7, 1991, to John Kahuglu and her mother Dawn. Shortly after Brittanee was born, Dawn married Chad Drexel, who adopted Brittanee at that time after Chad's military service ended. The family lived in the Rochester suburb of Chile, New York. In April 2009, Drexel asked her mother if she could go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, over spring break with her boyfriend and some girlfriends. Her mother refused, since she did not know the other teenagers and there were no accompanying adults on the trip. She also had a premonition that something bad would happen. This led to arguments between the two for several days until April 22nd, when Drexel asked if she could go to a friend's house for a day or two to calm down, to which Dawn agreed. That day, Drexel left for South Carolina with the other friends without telling her mother. 3 days later, after she and her group had arrived at the Bar Harbor Hotel in Myrtle Beach, Drexel called her mother once during the daytime and told her that she was at the beach. Her mother was not alarmed, as she assumed that Drexel had been referring to a beach along Lake Ontario. A trip there seemed plausible to her, since the temperature in the Rochester area had reached a high of 83 degrees in the area that day. That night, around 8 p.m., Drexel left her friends at the Bar Harbor Hotel beachfront to walk 1.5 miles south down South Ocean Boulevard to visit a longtime friend who was staying at the Blue Water Resort. Security cameras at the resort showed her arriving. Drexel was carrying a beige purse and wearing a black and white tank top, flip-flops, and shorts. The cameras captured her leaving around 8:45 p.m. Drexel was texting her boyfriend, John Greco, who had stayed in the Rochester area because of work. They had been texting back and forth, but around 9:15 p.m. her texts suddenly stopped, and Greco began calling her friends in Myrtle Beach to see if they knew where she was or what may have happened. When those efforts failed, Greco called Drexel's mother Dawn, who had not known that her daughter was in Myrtle Beach until she was contacted. Dawn called Chad and then the Rochester police, hoping that they could establish communications with their counterparts in South Carolina. Repeated calls and texts to Drexel's phone went unanswered. Myrtle Beach police began looking for Drexel the following morning. They located the security camera footage from the Blue Water Resort and found the friends whom she had visited. The last person who had reported seeing Drexel before she had left was identified as Peter Brazowitz, a 20-year-old nightclub promoter whom she had known from the Rochester area, and who was also vacationing in Myrtle Beach. They had apparently met at a local nightclub the night before. After police interviewed Brazowitz and the men with whom he was sharing his hotel rooms, they said that no one has been ruled in or out, adding that they did not have any persons of interest. Police searched Drexel's hotel room, finding all of the clothes she had packed but not her purse or cell phone. The phone's network pings were tracked on a path leading 50 to 60 miles south of Myrtle Beach in an area along U.S. Route 17 near the Georgetown, Charleston County line. The pings had stopped abruptly early on the morning of April 26th. Areas near there and around Myrtle Beach where a body might have been disposed of were then searched for 11 days. In 2011, police searched an apartment in Georgetown County, but that effort did not yield any information that helped identify a suspect. Dawn believed that her daughter had been trafficked, but the Myrtle Beach police did not believe this was a strong possibility, due to their claim of little or no trafficking taking place in their jurisdiction. A 2019 report conducted by the South Carolina Human Trafficking Task Force rated Horry County as the #1 county in South Carolina for reported human trafficking victims. In June 2016, the FBI held a news conference, during which they stated that they believed that Drexel had been murdered shortly after her disappearance. She had been abducted from Myrtle Beach and taken somewhere in the vicinity of Georgetown near where the cell phone pings had ended, before being killed there. The Bureau put up a $25,000 reward for information leading to the resolution of the case. 2 months later, the Charleston Post and Courier reported new developments from a bond hearing for Timothy Sean Taylor, an inmate then serving time in state prison on an unrelated charge. FBI agent Jarek Munoz testified that earlier that year Taquin Brown, another South Carolina inmate who was serving a 25-year sentence for manslaughter, told them that in 2009, shortly after Drexel disappeared, he had gone to visit a McClellanville stash house to give money to Taylor's father. As he walked through the house, Brown had told Munoz he saw Taylor sexually assaulting Drexel with others present. He continued to the backyard, where he found Taylor's father and made his payment. As they talked, Drexel ran from the house but was soon recaptured. Brown said he saw Taylor pistol whip Drexel, then take her back inside. He then heard the gunshots, which he assumed were the sounds of the young woman being killed. Brown claims to have seen a wrapped body being removed from the house, then dumped in one of many alligator ponds in the area. Brown's statement to investigators, Munoz said, was partially corroborated by information received from another informant who was not identified, but was described as having been incarcerated at the Georgetown County Jail at the time he had talked to authorities. According to the second inmate, Taylor had picked up Drexel in Myrtle Beach and taken her to McClellanville, where he showed her off to friends and tried to sell her to them for trafficking purposes. Brown said that when the case drew heavy media attention, Taylor decided to kill Drexel to avoid arrest. Taylor was ultimately arrested for an unrelated charge from his role as the getaway driver in a 2011 robbery of a McDonald's restaurant in Mount Pleasant. In early May 2022, Raymond Moody, a 62-year-old registered sex offender, turned himself into the Georgetown County Sheriff's Office on the basis of an obstruction of justice charge. Police had first considered Moody a person of interest in Drexel's disappearance as early as 2012. Moody confessed to the crime and provided the location of potential remains. The FBI excavated the site over the next 3 days. By May 11th, human remains were located, buried in the woods off a gated private drive outside Georgetown about 4 feet into the ground. They were identified as Drexel's through DNA and dental records on May 15th. The arrest warrant alleged that Drexel had been strangled and then buried by the morning of April 26, 2009, Georgetown County Sheriff's Office, along with Drexel's family, made the information public on May 16th, along with the announcement of Moody's arrest. Moody was arrested again and charged with murder, kidnapping, and first-degree criminal sexual misconduct, all alleged to have occurred on the day Drexel disappeared. On October 19th, Moody pleaded guilty to all charges and was subsequently sentenced to life in prison, with an additional to consecutive terms of 30 years. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind later. Thank you.